All right, 3, 2, 1. Hello, welcome to a new episode of Rants with Shih. Today is January 12th, 2025, the first episode of the new year. And I'm very, very excited about the next couple of episodes and the next couple of shows because we have um, a, a big plan. We have a big campaign coming up with none other than the former pitching coach of the CTBC Brothers. He's joined the CPPL since 2017, and he's been with the league for 7 years. He's been with the league. We've been with the team for through many regimes and head coaches, and now he's back in the United States. And he's left Taiwan. He's back in the United States, and he reached out to me for an interview and stuff like that. So I'm very, very excited. The guy's John Foster. He's joining me from Arizona. Is that correct, John?
Actually, I'm in Idaho right now.
Idaho.
Yeah, I'm in Idaho right now. I had to come up here to do
Same
something,
thing.
and then I'm going back down after. Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing. Not really the same thing. No, but hey, people from Idaho don't be offended by that. But
It's a complete polar opposite, truthfully.
Yeah, no, I bet like the weather, right, just to start with is
It's pretty rough. It's a little colder
it's
here
pretty
than there, but
yeah. I mean, I'm up here in New Jersey. We had a couple of snowstorms, not big snowstorms, so we got a couple of storms the last couple of weeks too. But first of all, can you tell us about your update? Like, what has happened since you left the CPPL? The last thing we heard from you was you left Taiwan. You had like a goodbye ceremony, not ceremony, but you had a goodbye thing at the Intercontinental Stadium, and then your family left. That's the last time we heard from you. But what's been happening since then?
yeah. So I knew I had kind of mentioned that this was going to be my last season last year. And in spring training, I mentioned it. I said it on my first day when I arrived that this will be my last year wearing this uniform. And then I came back for Sean from Morimondo and for the rehab guys. That's why I came back. And after that, during the season, when the season started to come to an end, I realized that I'm gonna look forward and come back to the States now. It's time for me to get over here and to really, start my career over here. Almost like a start over, since I haven't really coached here much, especially in professional baseball. So I decided to take that avenue, and now I'm working with the athletics. I'm the rehab pitching coordinator there, and I've been there for a little while, and I've been back and forth, and no complaints. It's awesome.
So, okay, look, the last position you took at the CPPL with the CTBC Brothers were the minor league rehab pitching coach. And so what I wanted, just curious to see what are the difference between like a general pitching coach versus like a rehab pitching coach?
On my on the rehab side, I've had many surgeries. I've had, gosh, I don't know, in the double digits. And the rehab pitching coach is a little bit different, especially post-operation and stuff like that. It tends that there's a lot of brick walls you got to kind of bust through, and it's good to kind of have somebody who's been there and been through it to kind of give you some insight of how to get through the tough times, and how to write programs for you, how to, maybe we're not doing enough, maybe we need to do more. And somebody who's had firsthand knowledge of that is me, having full reconstructed shoulder and elbow. I've kind of had every pain and tweak possible, so I tend to be able to relate to them pretty well. And every pain and discomfort they have, I'm able to kind of relate and try to find a way to solve that problem and to keep them progressing further into returning to play. And then a regular pitching coach is, we're trying to win games, we're trying to get through, we're trying to manage people, we're trying to make sure everybody's getting rest. I mean, there's so many variables in that of like what that job entails.
But before we step into like the CTBC Brothers and Sean Morimondo, because there's recent news coming out about Sean joining the Fubon Guardians and stuff like that. But before we step into that, I just want to feed my ego a little bit more. So how did you find out about my podcast? Because I didn't reach out to you. Like I literally, the story of that is I got a message from Twitter, like from it was like one of those like Twitters asking, hey, like, are you sure this is like somebody real? Right? It's like one of those like when you DM somebody on Twitter, it goes to like this filter place, and then they'll tell you, and then I see like an account, and then there was no profile picture, and there was like 2 followers, and I was like, what's happening? And it's like, hey, it's John Foster from the CTBC Brothers. I would love to have a talk with you. I'm like, what is happening? So, um, I was very excited, but then at the same time, I was like, okay, hey John, love to hear from you, but I want to make sure this is not a scam. And then so that's
Yeah.
I was really like, I'm not sure what was happening, but how did you find out about the podcast? And what do you think about the podcast?
And the funny thing is, like, I think that the first reply that you gave back is like, "There's no way this is true." I think is what you said, or like,
Yeah,
this is a fake account. I have to make sure it's you." And then
yeah,
I just legitimately just gave you my line account
yeah, yeah. You
right
know,
away.
that's well, when I was my mom was in New Jersey at the time. I told her because she's a Brothers fan now, which is like such a failure on my part to have to basically raise a Brothers fan. But I was thinking like there's no way this is real. And then when I got the line account, I was like, okay, this is real because it's the amount of people that like, when you have a line account, you're like, okay, like that's pretty legit. Like it has to be real. So that was
Yeah.
that I my worry went away as soon as I saw that QR code.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, I'm not really on Twitter at all. If anything, I have an account so I can look. I don't really do much. I mean, just recently since left, I've actually started to do it. I didn't like to do it while I was still part of, part of a team and there. I don't like interaction like that per se. I like to kind of stay on the outside of that part and just kind of read more and not really involve myself into replies or anything like that. I just think it can get messy sometimes, and the way that text comes off sometimes comes off differently than actually how you actually mean it. So I don't really want to go down that road. But yeah, so I found out about your podcast. I can't remember exactly where 100%, but I think it was posted on CPBL Stats or something like that, which is the only other English way you can find stats, and I came across it and I was like, huh, let me do it, and I run a lot. And so I only listen to podcasts when I run, because I figure the most boring thing possible that I can actually do while it's something that you hate is actually probably twice as good for you mentally. So, and I put one of yours on and just went through it. And I was like, wow, I was like, you know what? This is really, really great to hear because as a foreigner in Taiwan in this league, we only talk to our translator and maybe a couple foreign coaches here and there. But for the most part, we're kind of just living day by day, trying to evaluate what's going on, what we believe in, and we don't get the outside world, unless we, like I told you before, like unless we go to the line news and then highlight it, then go to Google Translate and then translate the translation to actually try to see what it actually means, But yeah, I found it, I listened to it, and I was like, wow, like, and then I realized I was like, you had other ones, so I started listening to past ones, and then I got update 19 or 2020, and then I've just followed them ever since. And truthfully, I was like, why wasn't there more? Like, I wanted more, but after after talking to you, I realized that you're busy, and it's pretty tough being on that time zone, and it's a lot of reading on your part and trying to be involved and not be, and to actually have actually know what you're saying and not try to put out false stuff on your podcast. It's a lot because there is a miscommunication there sometimes with what's really going on and what you're reading, But
Yeah, no,
I thought right from the beginning, I thought you did a great job, and I kept on listening to it, and I liked it. I loved hearing something else than my own thoughts, basically, and what all coaches were thinking or my translators, and so it was like a breath of fresh air for me to hear something like this.
yeah, and like when I heard that the first time, we kind of talked for about 10 minutes before starting the recording. But it's one of those things you kind of it's refreshing to hear from the fans' point of view because whenever you listen to press conferences and stuff like that, everybody like a lot of the coaches and players say like we tune that out and we don't we want to focus on the inside. But at the same time, I can also understand what you're saying, which is when you're at a foreign country and the access to information, you want access to outside information, but then it's probably hard to come by. And so I really appreciate your support and really appreciate you reaching out because that was again I would never thought that was going to happen when like a former pitching coach of the brothers reaching out and say, I want to come on your podcast. Um, but your journey in the CPPL, again, it's a 7-year journey. You started in the, I call it the second army, and then you became also the first army pitching coach. And then the last couple of years, it was first army pitching coach. And then the last year was the rehab pitching coach. And then you left the team. And you also mentioned a little bit before literally the first day of this 2024 season, you basically told everybody involved, hey, I'm not going to stay in the CPPL. Do you want to expand a little bit on the last couple of years of your tenure with the CPPL and with the CTBC Brothers?
Yeah, it was a bit of a whirlwind, not this season, but the year before, an unexpected thing happens, and sometimes that does happen, I mean, it happens in the major leagues in the United States, right offhand, I remember, I believe it was Rick Renneria at a time. I think that he had gotten the job for the Cubs, I believe. And then, I don't think they even started the season or something, but then they hired Joe Madden, and then they just got rid of him, I think is what it was. I might be completely off, but I think I'm pretty close. And,
Well,
so like,
you can also bring up like the Carlos Beltran with the Mets, right? Like after that investigation, from the organization's point of view, it's like they had to change the coach because the coach got, the manager got suspended and everything like that. So things like that happen all the time.
Yeah, things do happen, and stuff like that. And sometimes it is part of the game, and it stinks and whatever. But I guess that the only thing that you can do is just look upwards and try to be a good example, especially for me, for my kids, and, to really show them that, like, I'm unbreakable, nothing's going to break me, I'm going to get through. I'm going to still do my job. I'm going to still do it with pride and dignity, and then carry on. And if I'm not going to, what I didn't want to do is be somebody who's going to complain about a job and just complain and complain and complain and don't do anything about it. Yeah, I'm kind of like the polar opposite of that. I'd rather just make action and just do something about it, and basically that's what I did.
So that particular day, right? Like when I think a lot of the listeners to this podcast know what you're talking about. That particular day, things happened, and till this day, I am still confounded by it. I actually woke up that day at like 7 a.m. I woke up and I saw Facebook, and the first thing came up was Lin Wei-Chu was let go, and I was like, "There's no way."
I actually listened to that. I listened to that one.
Yeah.
Right when that one came up when you did it, I listened to that one too. I was like, "What is he here?"
Yeah, no, because I mean, by then I had, I left Taiwan. I was in the U.S. for about a year and a half at that point, and because 2020, 2021, I was very much involved in the CPPL and watching it every day and stuff like that. But I talked about this on the podcast multiple times. Like, as time goes on, the amount of time and energy I can spend on the CPPL gets less and less. And at that point, unless I reach out to like people I know, I don't really hear stuff from them. So at that time, I was like, I don't want to reach out to people and then know stuff and not talk about it in podcasts. I'd rather stay innocent, right? And just talk about my point of view. But from the outside, again, it's like, it makes no sense. It must be dreaming. And then like after I went back to sleep, a couple hours later, I woke up and it's still there. And I did an episode of it. So, and you, fortunately or unfortunately, you were involved in that because you were let go that day, and then you were basically sent to Pingdong, and then you were the second army pitching coach, and then the next year you were a second army rehabbing coach. Yeah. So you never went back to the first army, and then you left the team. So can you explain, or what do you know about that day? Do you want to talk about that day? What, from your point of view, what's your story?
All I can do is give the truth, of what I was told and what the experience was, and right away, I knew something was wrong when I got to the stadium and Lin wasn't there. And I'm like, that is so weird. Like, that never, ever happens, unless there's like, put it this way. If he wasn't there, he would have said something, he's meticulously organized, like there's a lot of great things about him. We can go about that later, and And I was just like, whatever. And then there was a buzz, and you could tell something was going on, and then they had a meeting and said this, and said that they want me to be the pitching coordinator now in the minors and whatever. And then it changed to helping the majors out and try to be a coordinator, go up and down, and and it is what it is. I kind of like said yes, but I didn't agree. Like I didn't really know what I did wrong, and they couldn't, and they really couldn't give me an answer. It's just like kind of like one of those things where it's like we're just making a move, and we can't really, and that happens too sometimes, and then that's all that happened, and then I couldn't tell you anything more than that because I actually don't know, and just like I've told you before, like I couldn't tell you. Me and Lin are still good friends. I've had dinner with him as many times as I possibly can ever since that happened. And still we talk about it, and we're he has nothing bad to say. And neither do I. It's just unfortunate, and all you can do is learn from it. I guess that the only thing that I would say is that, like, you know, if there was a move and I did something wrong, at least tell me. I can handle the bad news. Like, tell me uh, I'm a terrible coach. Cool, I can kind of get that, and then I can move on and be like, all right, I need to be a better coach. So that way, in the future, that I could try to eliminate that thing to ever happen again. In any way possible, in what I can control. If this was due to my actions, then of course tell me, please. Don't sweep it under the rug. But it wasn't like that, and um, all I could do was just look forward. And my kids were in school full time at that time, in Taichung, so it was like, okay, it was a little tough. They were in local schools, so it was like, I can't just take them out of school, man. Like, so going up and down did work. My family stayed there, and I just kind of traveled back and forth. So if anything, it was kind of just a different thing. A lot of people were trying to work some things out. We had a new manager who'd never managed before, and like, there was just a lot of stuff that was happening that you could just tell it was just kind of uneasy, and everybody's trying to fill it out, and that was it. I got to be on the inside of that too. Mostly was taking care of the foreign guys. If something happened, or like a guy like Jose. Jose holds a close place in my heart forever. He's really special to me, and he would call me. Yeah, he still calls me. He called me last year. He called me this year. Hey man, what do you see? Is there any problems? Like, and we would talk. Anytime. I mean, I'm always there for him. I mean, that guy is an extended part of my family. Uh, I'll do anything for him. So like that was kind of like my thing, where I would kind of help some of the guys who wanted it, or give insight to some of the coaches if they wanted it or whatever. But that was about it.
Well,
And that's all I could really say. I have nothing else to say.
at the end of
The only reason why I did come back, after that does happen, is because of Sean and because of Mei Mei. When I knew that they were going to have surgery and that they were going to need to rehab, I knew that I was the best person for that job. And I knew that I can give them what they needed, which is a solid foundation and somebody who's been through it with experience to actually put them on right track to really, really get them back on the field. And right now, both of them are doing really well. And only time will tell how they're going to do.
Yeah, to be just for the fans out there, Mei Mei is Zheng Haojun, the right in the pitcher that came back from the States a few years ago. Big part of the rotation. His nickname was Mei Mei. I just want to put that out there. But you talk about your relationship with Sean Morimondo. I know, I get it, but like, again, this is because again, when you use Google Translate, it's like they don't.
Oh yeah,
I just
it doesn't.
Yeah, it's like maybe the nickname doesn't get translated, or like what's happening. But yeah, I just want to bring out the name. But when you talk about Sean Morimondo, he's had he dominated the league when he first got to Taiwan, went to Korea, came back, and then immediately, had to go through surgery, Tommy John surgery. And he talked about like his relationship with the CTBC brothers, the brothers giving him a lot of time and a lot of opportunities, even during the rehab, because, I think in professional sports, or especially when you're a foreign pitching a four player in like the Asian leagues, you get very little leeway, or you get a very short leash. And when you don't play well for a couple of weeks, especially during the middle of the season when the restrictions come in, you know, it can't be from the outside. You can't feel cruel to these foreign pitchers,
Mm.
but the CTBC brothers, credit to the organization, credit to the coaching staff, and they gave Morimondo more opportunities. Sean stayed with the brothers to rehab, and again, you said that you stayed with the brothers because Sean and Mei wanted, needed to go through some rehab program. So, and now most recently he's signed with the Fubon Guardians, and trying to make a comeback there. Talk about your relationship with Sean Morimondo and what you think the Fubon Guardians or CPPL fans overall can expect from Morimondo with the 2025 season.
Well, if you base it upon what he had done, in his last season before, when he went to Korea, I mean, he was elite. I mean, if he would have stayed here and done the same thing he did in Korea and maintained that's like the same performance as what he did there in the CPBL, he probably would have been MVP of the league. I mean, his numbers he was dominant, like beyond dominant, and everything happened at the right time for him. He went through a lot of trials and kind of like a trial and error on a couple things. He went to a spot where me and Lin would sit there and be like, oh boy, like he had this part where, oh, he's 80 pitches in. For some reason, when he got to 80 pitches, he would just like lose it for 3 batters. And we're like, oh gosh, like get somebody loose,
Yeah.
But then he got through that. Then he got through the 7th inning. And then, and then he started to get these phone calls and whatever, about going to Korea and this and that. And it came to fruition. And then when it did happen, he took off. I mean, just took off, and the confidence level was just unbreakable. Is what I've always said to a lot of the pitching staff, is that if you put that work in through the hard times, then when you do get on the mound on game day, on real game day, when it really matters, and then you're unbreakable. Nothing can phase you. And he was right there. If you base it upon that, I mean, boy, watch out. That's all I can say. But but baseball is what it is. And he's going to do fine. I don't like making predictions and saying how's he going to do or anything like that. But I will say this: I know he's going to give his absolute best, which is what people do. But he's going to be a student. He's going to go out there and he's going to play his butt off for that team. That's all I know. And that's all that you want. He's a good teammate. He's a professional inside and out, and he's a great guy. So like I wish him all the best, and I hope that he absolutely has a better season than he had. I really do. I just wish him the absolute best luck while he's there, and I hope everything is even better than when he was there in 2023.
Well, let me ask you this, and like from you want to pick a brain here, because Morimondo, again, like he missed the entire 2024 season, the summer league season. He goes to Australia and he throws about 40 innings over there. He pitched quite well, and then he's had a couple of games where he went deep into the game, and that's when Fubon came in and basically gave him a CPPL First Army contract versus the brothers, who I think, if I remember the reports correctly, they were going to give him a second Army opportunity, second Army contract, but the Fubon came in and gave him a First Army contract. And credit to Morimondo for making the decision that best fits his own that does the best for himself. But if you were in charge of managing Morimondo's 2025 season, he's missed 2024. He already pitched a few games in the winter, but at the same time, you kind of probably need him to be that 3rd or 4th best foreign pitcher for the Fubon Guardians in 2025. How would you manage his workload for this upcoming season?
There's a lot of things to be said, of the innings the year previous. How many did he have? And, I don't necessarily believe that there's any restrictions. I think that he is as long as he's healthy and everything is fine, there is no restrictions, but you kind of want to tread a little bit lightly just for, 3 to 5 starts in the beginning, of try to keep him at a decent pitch count, because the CPBL games are a grind. It's different. I mean, I know, and seeing guys in the major leagues in the States, sometimes they don't get to the point that we get our pitches to in the CPBL, which would be 100 pitches, 90, 85 pitches in 4 innings, or 100 pitches in 5 innings. I mean, heavy workloads like that, but it happens a lot. And you know what? Sometimes with the CPBL only having so many teams, I mean, you have so many innings against each team, you're not fooling them anymore. You don't you're not just going to pull out a different pitch that's going to oh, what was that? So you've got to be on top of your game, and sometimes, and they fight off everything. And I mean, there's times where I think that, I mean, especially in 2019 and whatever, when the monkeys were the monkeys, when it was Lamigo, oh my gosh. I mean, I have nightmares about that damn team. God, I'd wake up, I'd stay awake till 3, 4 in the morning. How can we get them out? This is the most clutchest team I've ever seen, no matter what we do, So, and then there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot to manage, because then that's why I wanted to pick your brain, because there's so many to consider. And I think a common theme, a common answer when I ask people, guests like yourself and Bruce Billings came on the show, Brendan Higgins came on the show. In 2020, I think Darren Downs was a pitcher for the Lamigo Monkeys. Before then, they all talked about the CPBL is different. You can say it's a pro league. For many years it was a 14 league. You were in the 14 league era, and then expanded to 6, but it's still a small league. Everybody knows each other on the field. When you're a pitcher, it's so different because everybody knows everybody, and you pitch the same guys over and over and over. It's a whole different, from what I've heard, it's such a different strategy and mindset you have to play with in the CPP versus, the major leagues. And so, can you give us a little bit insight of how, what are the differences, and how did you adjust to it? Because you as a pitching coach also had to adjust to this league when you first got to Taiwan.
Yeah. What I pretty much told every single pitcher is that preparation is what's going to get you there, and I'll give a great example. Let's say that there's let's say a foreign pitcher, when they come from the States, they're kind of taught, and there's kind of a thing of what you want to do is you only want to throw 2 pitches first time through the lineup, and if you can get through with it 2 times through the lineup, great. And then you can start introducing the other pitches later. And man, you can't go with that mentality. There's been few guys who I've seen who could do that, who could really, really do that, over these years. Ones like Mike Lowry, I mean, geez, that guy could throw 2 pitches, and then all of a sudden, 3rd time through the lineup, he threw a curveball, and he hadn't thrown one all day, and then he just throws it for a strike every time. It's gosh, but it's preparation as a starting pitcher. Okay. As a great example, when the preparation, what I tell them is that you're not only going to try to pitch right now and get ready, but you need to also be a lights out reliever. You need to be mentally as an 8th inning reliever with the bases loaded in a 1-run game. So you better be ready when you go out there for the first inning. And the reason why, prime example, when the Monkeys are hot, when any team is really hot, truthfully, the Dragons played us tough too. So did football. They're not easy, but there comes a time when the starter goes out there, and if they don't take that first inning serious, boy, they can get 4 runs on you in 7 pitches. Because they're so overly aggressive that they have your game plan, and if you're not prepared to throw all of your pitches and be nasty and be a lights out reliever in that 1st or 2nd inning, it can take your start and turn it from being bad to horrible, or it can take it from being first inning you're doing the same thing, and then boom, they just overly aggressive, and then 4 runs are on the board. It's what happened? Well, preparation for me. And sometimes you lose, and so be it. Sometimes you got to tip your hat, because there's a lot of times there's some pitches that are the right pitch at the right location and everything is right, and they're still getting beat. It's just how it is. Like I said, you're not fooling them. They know what you're bringing to the table. So, that's all it is. So for me, it's preparation. And as a reliever, you got to be nasty. You got to think swing and miss on every single pitch, especially when you're late into the game, when you have runners on, You know, a lot of times, you know, it just depends. But as a reliever, I don't like getting beat on the first pitch, you know. So like a lot of times runner in scoring position, I'm trying to get nasty right away, and I'm thinking swing and miss, you know, strike to ball kind of pitches, not just trying to throw a strike. You know, I'm not just trying to lay a strike in there to get ahead, because you might not get that baseball back, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of that, where get the focus up for that target, get it through, and then reset, and then evaluate the situation instantaneously, and then attack again.
You alluded to this a little bit, and this is one of the questions I really wanted to ask, but I forgot to put in the rundown. Surprise, surprise. But when a foreign pitcher comes to Taiwan, right? What is the one thing? Well, what is the message that you give to a new pitcher when he reports to Pingdong or Taichung, and what's the first thing you introduce them to that is something besides the point you just mentioned, which is and something that, you know, they kind of need to get their head around first before, you know, before they become successful in the CPBL.
And you know, the first thing that I usually tell them, and I tell them that I'm not really trying to scare them, but it's hard to pitch here. And if you think you're just going to come and dominate, I don't think I've seen that, you know, in 7 years. You know, I mean, there's doubts of it, but you know, if you come in strong and you just think I'm above this league, you know, I don't think I've seen that. You know, truthfully, there's been actually, yes, there has. Early on, definitely Henry Sosa.
Yeah.
Holy smokes! I mean, when he came in, oh my goodness, that was like. But man, was it exciting, you know, during that time, and when it was like we had Miranda and Rogers and DePaula.
Yeah.
It was like, oh man, it was like I couldn't wait for the matchup to be Sosa against one of our guys. You know, I know it's going to be a tight game, and I want to see who's going to win. You know, like that stuff's exciting for me too. You know, of course we want to win every day, but I want to fight. I want to battle. I want to see who's the best in the pressure. You know, that's why you do it. And so, that's the first thing is like, just don't think you're going to dominate here. Like, you've got to pay attention to this league. You've got to see these hitters. If you face one team, you better believe if you have a good pickoff move, if you have a good curveball, good slider, good fastball, whatever you have, every single team already knows it. So after you throw that one outing, man, there is no more, you know, there's no more secrets, man. Like, everybody's videoing you. They're studying you, seeing if you're tipping pitches. They're studying to see your pickoff move. They want to see what pitches are you throwing with 2 strikes. Like, man, I mean, it is instantaneously, you know. So yeah, it's just that, and giving them that thing will be prepared, understand the hitters, so that you want that learning curve to be, you know, rather short. You know, you don't want to have big ebb and flow, because, you know, then, you know, you have 2 bad ones, and especially if you're a mid-season sign, it's tough to stay on, you know, and your team's most likely going to be on a playoff run, and every win matters. So
yeah, I also want to ask this: how do you prepare foreign pitchers to get used to the songs and the dancing? Because I still remember one of my favorite interviews was Brock Dykestorm, and he he's okay with like the rhythm, like if it's if it's rhythmic, and he can take that, but he cannot stand, especially the one in Taichung, like the one of the guys in the middle of the innings when the cheerleaders are taking a break. There's one guy that screams into the microphone. He said that's the one guy that he could not stand. But again, and my uncle went back to Taiwan in 2024, and he saw a game in the Taipei Dome. My mom took him to the Taipei Dome. He came back, and I asked him, "What do you think about the game?" He said, "It's so loud." Like he's a big, like, major, like, he's been in the U.S. for decades. He's been like, and he hasn't been to the CPPL game in a long time. And my mom, who's a fan now, took him to a game, and then he's just like, "It's so, like, how do you think?" Like he said, it's too loud for him, because how do you think about the game when it's so loud? How do you analyze? He's a true baseball fan. He's like, when I sit down, I want to analyze the game. I want to think about how the team, or if I were the team, how would I manage this? But it's so loud. I don't know how how they do it. And he didn't really love the environment. So I'd imagine if you're a pitcher on the mound, it's probably worse, especially when you're on the road, because you will be pitching against the music and against all the stuff. So how do you prepare your pitchers for that environment?
I don't think I've ever had to prepare them. But what Brock said, like, he's not the only one who doesn't like that guy either.
I got you. Yeah, I
I
got you.
can remember,
Yeah.
I can remember sitting in the dugout. I'm like, is he really like screaming like as loud as he can? I'm like, gosh, dang, but I don't think I've ever had to really say it. I always give them a warning of it to tell them that like the music is not going to stop. Like
Yeah.
forever. Like it's never gonna stop. So like get used to it, whatever. I've never really had to deal with it because mostly too is because most of the guys that do come have pitched on bigger platforms, who've either pitched in the majors or even pitched in like say in winter ball or Mexico, with 20,000+ fans that are equally as loud. It's just different. I would say it's just as loud. It's just a different dynamic. But I mean, truthfully, I haven't seen a regular baseball game live except for a Taiwan game in 7 years, and I don't know what it's gonna be like for me either because I'm like the opposite. So like I'm gonna come here and be like, man, this is so quiet. So I'm just me on the field. I it's never really been an issue. I For some reason, the one song that gives me anxiety, like beyond anxiety, is the Lions when they got runners on and that fight song that they have. Man,
Yeah.
dude, it's like, oh, here it comes. Like I don't. It's just like here they come. That one is the one song that I'm like, oh man, when it comes on, I'm like, just get these guys out so this song will stop.
Is it the one with the ho 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 ho? Is that the one?
I love watching it now when I'm not on the field, but when I'm on the field, I'm like, oh god, because whenever that song comes on, my pitchers are on the mound. So
Yes.
I'm like, oh gosh, I'm like, please just get this guy out so we can be done with this song. Because they just like the Lions they just always seem to just catch on fire when that song's on, especially if 2024 is up there. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that's the song that like interesting story too. In the Premier 12, they didn't have the song selected for the first couple of games because the Lions had a new song, and at the time it was like every team picks a song and they're gonna rotate it. That particular song, it was huge in like the 23 baseball classic, and last year in the Premier 12, the Lions picked another song, or they picked another song, the Lions, and then so they didn't play the song in the first couple of games, and then people were like, "Where's the song? Like we want like that we want that song for our team, for the national team," and so the commissioner, everybody went to the commissioner and like DM'd him on Instagram, and then he goes, "Oh, what's happening?" Because he's the GM of the national team, but he only takes care of the baseball team itself and not everything around it. And so he makes a phone call to the cheerleading captains and they explain what happened. And so he goes like, okay, let me talk to all the bosses. So he talked to all the CPBL bosses, asked for their approval, saying, hey, are we okay with the Lions getting one more song? And all the bosses like, oh, yes, fine. And are we okay with the captains picking the best song for the situation and not having to care about all like the equality and everything? They go, okay, yes. And then he goes back to the cheerleading captains and say, okay, play this song from now on. And so game 3 was Taiwan versus Japan. And that was the first time Taiwan used that song. And that, and so that particular song, now, like after winning the championship in particular, like everybody in Taiwan knows about that song. Like if they were playing it on like in 7-Eleven after the championship game because they want to celebrate and everything. And so I know exactly what you're talking about. That your reaction to that, that's gonna make the clip because that's incredible. Like because I always think about like when you're as a fan, you're watching press conferences and stuff like that. Like, oh, we don't let stuff outside the team influence us and stuff like that. But I always wondered like how much did the songs like does it really make the other team feel some sort of nervousness or like what like you said, like you just feel like oh here it comes again, and is it really that big of a boost if you're the home team getting all that support? So yeah, that was great. Like yeah. I really enjoyed.
I think it is sometimes. Other times not as much. Whatever. Just like everything.
Yeah.
And clutch hitting is clutch hitting. But that song stands out to me, and it seems that like there is a lot of damage that has been done to the pitchers with that song going. And it's not only that, it's just like, it seems like that song goes for so long. It's like the long innings. So it's like, I hear that song so much. I know it by freaking heart now.
Yeah. So we're going to shift to the Fubon Guardians. We had a phone call a couple of weeks ago, and you said, I mean, the Fubon Guardians on this podcast, and you listen to this podcast a lot. The Fubon Guardians on this podcast is like the butt of the joke every single season. It's like, I always wanted them to do well because the organization invests a lot of resources into their team, but every year they do something weird, or they do something like you probably heard my Mike Lowry retirement thing, which I just didn't like that at all. And then there's like they will be competitive, but then they will just have a month that just does it so bad. And then when the pressure comes in, like you can feel the team start to crumble under, because I think they have to deal with more pressure than other teams because of the kind of the perception of they don't play well, or they don't do well. But you said they're coming, and you did warn me that the Fubon Guardians are a team to watch out for years to come. Could you expand on like what do you see from the inside, or from like within? You watch their second army games a lot too. Like what made you think that the Guardians are a team to watch out for in the future?
Well, seeing them in the minor leagues, they're not a last place team. I've looked at their stats. I've looked at them up and down. And they have good stats. They have good pitching numbers in the majors. They do have some certain things. They're just missing like some pieces, to have the complete product. But like they don't have like last place stats, by any means, and what I believe is that they, I'm also on the outside looking in. So like, I can't speak for them or anything like that, and wouldn't want to, because I would be speculating. But, one of the greatest moves, there's multiple moves I think that are fantastic, which is Chien-Feng, absolutely. The guy's got fire. He has passion, and you can see it, and he'll fight for his players. That's huge. And Lin, when you have a guy like him who's meticulous and and a very knowledgeable person who has values and everything, like, and he's going to be in the coordinator position, and he's not going to settle for mediocrity, and nor is he going to settle for coaches not doing enough. Like he is tough on it, but it's not really necessarily tough. It's just being accountable, holding coaches and players accountable for both of their actions. That's huge, and so I think that right there is, those two things right there are huge. I had the opportunity to play with Chin-Feng just in the fall league, and he impressed me then. And I don't think I could point out Taiwan on the map. I believe he was the first major leaguer, right? Come from Taiwan. Correct?
Yep.
And yes. All I remember is the amount of power he had in batting practice was like so impressive. I was like, whoa, where is this guy from? Like Taiwan. I'm like, I don't even know where the hell that is at that time. I was in my 20s. I really was not cultured.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that those are really, really big figures right there, and and as long as everybody's leading in the right direction, and everybody has, I don't think they can press. They shouldn't press, as be like, we're expected to do this, we're expected to do that. I don't think the expectation is that. I believe that what they will do is, of course, everybody wants to win. That kind of, you don't have to say that, but I think that what has to happen is the dynamic of building something different, and starting from over, like really starting over, and having the entire organization bought into, this is what we're doing now. Like, it doesn't matter what's happened in the past. None of that crap matters. Now it's time to play baseball, and we're going to play baseball this way. And this is how it's going to be done, because this is going to work, and this is how we're going to turn it around, and I don't have a doubt in my mind that that's not what's going to happen, and it might, I don't know how long it'll take. I really don't. Yeah. I mean, look in the major leagues here, look at the Royals, the Royals, when Dayton Moore was with the Royals as a player development, and then he went from the Braves to the Royals as they get to the World Series. They won a World Series. It's not a it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that Lin has won every single place he's ever been. That's not a coincidence. You don't just, nobody's that lucky.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, I think that building a level of mental toughness on the entire team is a huge factor. And I believe that the Fubon team does have the talent. I think that if they can get these guys tougher into situations and pressure situations, they have all the talent right there. And I think that getting them to believe in themselves and to really believe in what they can do, and don't think about the outcome, just think about the task that you have at hand. I think that that's a big step. And I know that with especially Lin, and I know they have a new hitting coach there too, Charles Poe he was with the Monkeys, and he's awesome, like beyond awesome. And he's going to keep them entitled, and he's a hard worker. So I think they're in good hands, man. I really, really do. I mean, and not seeing their minor league pitching staff and whatever, of course they're raw and rough, but that's what coaching's for. That's what development's for. And I think that having those two guys on the position player side, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, they're not a level below on the field. When the Wei-Chu Dragons came into the league as an expansion team, and in some period in the 2024 season, when it comes to the Hawks, their first season as stretches in the season, you can feel that their depth is not there, and there's like a gap between the top, like the more developed, like the older teams versus like an expansion team, right? But the Fubon Guardians never felt that way. At the same time, that makes it more curious and makes it weirder to me that how do you, for majority of the time, a 14 league, now in a 16 league where half the league make the playoffs, you've been to the playoff one time, never made it to the Taiwan series, and that you in the playoff series, and that's basically in a scenario where 3 out of the 4 teams make the playoff, right? And so that's what makes me curious from the outside. Like, how do you that you're not far away. Every single year there's a month here and there, especially like between 2016 to 2021. There are times when they're of it and their talent level looks like a championship caliber talent, and then just something would happen. Like it's like when everybody laughs at the Cowboys, like something would happen. Something wrong is going to happen at some point, and they just miss the playoff. And again, that's hard to do. That's hard to do in a 14 league when you don't make the playoff year over year.
Yeah, and truthfully, just by playing against them, it just seems like they didn't have an identity. They didn't know who they were. It seems like that, but they did play us tough. But like we had some battles. Like playing in Shenzhen Stadium, it was always like, gosh, man, like it didn't matter if they're in the last place or not. It was like they played us like they're a first place team. Like we always had battles against them. So on my end, there was never like, oh, sweet, we can get 3 wins, or we can win 2 out of 3 this weekend against football. It was never like that, So like I never saw them like as a decline, even though our record might have been good. They weren't easy wins, So I just didn't see like an identity. What I saw on my side was a lot of not individuals, but like they were just baseball players, but it didn't look like there was enough behind it, and it seems like when it went bad, it was awful. It wasn't like they pulled themselves back out of it. And and I'm not on the inside, so I can't tell what's going on. Coaches are there for a reason. And I know Joyce there, who's a front office, and she's smart. They're good. These coaches aren't there for no reason, so like they're doing their jobs, and the players are trying their best. It's just a matter of sometimes you got to try new things, and sometimes it's not the easy way. And I think maybe they're because I'm pretty sure that they're already starting spring training,
Yeah.
and guess what? It's not going to stop until the season's over, and then it's going to start again when they go to fall camp. And that's just how it's going to be, especially in the minor leagues. And so I hope that that team's ready to work, because that is something that they're going to do all these things, and that's just what's going to happen now. With especially with Lin there, and I'm all for it. I have nothing but faith in it. I stand behind it.
Yes. And if you compare the Guardians on the field statistics and record with the brothers, I hold this belief. If 2023 you didn't have that particular weird day, there is a good chance, in my opinion, there is a higher than good chance that brothers would at least make the playoff. And you're talking about probably four-peating rather than right now you have two. You won back to back, you missed the playoff, and then you won again. But if you look at like the last, between 2021 and 2024, it's been a brothers league. The brothers have done tremendously well. And then even before that, there was 7 years out of the 8 years the brothers won second place 6 times. As much of a curse, and I think as much as the fan base and the team struggled with actually winning a championship, I feel like a curse back then. As much as that was a curse, it still means a lot that the fact that the brothers are in the finals every single year, pretty much for in 7 out of 8 years. So if you go back all the way 14 or 13, 14 years, the brothers are always up there. So the brothers are doing something right, especially when the China Trust Corporation bought the team and set up a spring training facility and everything like that. So from the inside, as a pitching coach, and you've been there since 2017 to 2024, what did the brothers, or what are the brothers doing right that allows the organization to be on the top echelon of the league every single year?
There's a lot of things. It has to go from bottom to top. So from when I was here, we definitely needed something more in the minor leagues than just a pitching coach. We needed something more, and then we got Chien-Ming to come in, and have the coordinator position to kind of organize more and whatever, and on my end is I would say is a little bit easier in a way, because if they don't produce, I get rid of them. I send them back down, because I can't keep you here anymore, and it's not necessarily me, it's that we can't allow this to keep happening, unless you're making changes or whatever. So I have a lot of turnaround, but on the minor league side, having good coaches who are really caring about them and really, having a good structure. And I also do believe that I don't think that we have to be fair, don't have to be fair to players. Just because, I tell pitchers all the time, just because you wear this uniform does not mean that you're entitled to pitch on game day. I think that pitching time and innings are earned in positions, whether it be a closing role or a setup guy or anything like that. Those are earned. Just because you're employed by this team or whatever doesn't give you the right. It's a privilege to pitch on those, and they're earned. So I think that you have to go out there with that type of mentality. And I think we've done a good job of that. I think that the brothers have done a good job of that, of trying to build something, to build a winning tradition, and plus, not only that, but I'll go back to it. When Lin came in, that's all I know. And I don't know what it was like in the minors before that. But all I know is that when Lin got in there, it was all about business. We're trying to win. And I think that developing a winning tradition from the minors, and we're winning games, and we're only putting players in there to win, what happens is you filter out all the bad ones, because they're either going to quit, retire, or can't, or they don't like it, or try to go to a different team, or and but that thing that you build stays for a while, and it's going to stick there for a while, and there's one other thing, which is, how can I put it? It's like you build something, actually, I'll do it this way. Is that when players come to the Bros, they already know what they're kind of in for. They already know that, well, I must be good to play and whatever, and if I don't, I will. There is pressure in a way. Yeah, you're coming to a team. You are you were coming to the Taiwan Yankees.
Yeah.
Like they know it. So like there's already an expectation before they even step on the field. So like they know what is expected out of them before they even grab a baseball and throw it for us as a pitching standpoint. So, and I believe that our scouting department, everybody, they know, and we try to what they've done is try to develop a good staff crew every year and try to see what do we need and whatever. And it's truthfully, it's everything. There's not one thing. It's everybody working together and everything.
Yeah.
It's, and then not only that, the guy in the majors, whoever that is, it just has to communicate with everybody and try to make sure. When I was the pitching coach in the majors, I made sure that minor leagues, they coached and they do what they want. I'll tell them when I need somebody, but I don't want to give them any restrictions. Like you guys try to win games, you do what you need to do. And then if I need somebody, I'll get somebody. I will take whatever I can. Last thing I want to do is try to hinder you, because we're also trying to build a winning team from the ground up. And if we build a team of winners on both sides, then that's only going to benefit us like tenfold. So I think that's what we've done a good job at. That's what the brothers have done. I always say we, but that's what the brothers have done a really, really good job of from when I arrived. I don't know anything about beforehand, but from when I arrived, absolutely, 100%.
Who's the most underrated player in the system, in your opinion? And it's something that fans will need to keep an eye on for the future.
Oh man, gosh, that's probably one of the best questions I've ever been asked in my entire time in the CPBL.
I'll give you two. I'll give you two if it's a hard question. Too hard to pick one.
Oof. I really, man, oh man, that's a tough one, man. I'll tell you, I will tell you who hasn't even reached his potential yet, and I really hope he does. And everybody has high hopes for him, but man, this guy is a superstar, and it's Ray.
Ray?
I don't think Ray, center fielder.
Do you know his number?
Number 88.
88. All right, I'm on the. Is it a pitcher?
No.
He's on. Oh, he's not.
No.
The center fielder, Song Chun.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, Song Chun Ray, number 88.
Yeah, he went to
yes.
He went to Kupao, right?
A righty. Yeah.
Right. He is so athletic. That guy can throw. I mean, I would love for him to be the Taiwanese Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
That guy has so much talent. He's athletic. He's getting better every year. And man, I mean, I would love to get him on the mound, but he threw I watch him. Every time I watch him, I want him to do well every single time so badly, because he is so special. And I hope he can get to that point where he can show what he really is, because man, I love watching him play, and he's a great kid.
Yeah, he was at he participated in those like pitching velocity competitions at the All-Star games twice, and then he broke was it 96 or 97 miles per hour on a couple of pitches. It was, and everybody's like, why is he not a pitcher right now?
And he did it nonchalant, yeah. What's funny is when I would go up and I went up and down, in 2023. And when I would go up and down to the minors and to majors, I would go there on off days sometimes, and he would have the radar gun out throwing bullpens, just throwing with the radar gun by himself. I'm
just to see where he can throw.
Just for fun, man. I fucking love that kid, man. I really do. I'm pulling for him so hard. Yeah, I wish the stars for him, man. I really, really do.
Yeah. Well, we're hitting that 1 hour mark, and that's normally when we wind up the interviews and everything. But we will have a couple more episodes coming up with John Foster, and John's been very genuine and very nice to me and to the show, that he said that we can do multiple appearances. We can do a series. And so we will have other episodes coming up. I'm going to ask a little bit about his coaching philosophies, what he thinks of the CPBL as a league, and where Taiwan baseball is at to the rest of the baseball world. And then we're also going to do a 2025 season preview. So that's the overall structure of the series so far. But before we end the first episode, obviously every single guest on this show gets FaceTime where he or she or they get to talk about one topic for as long as they want. And again, there's no time limit. There's no nothing. It's just the topic can be baseball related or not baseball related, but they get one rant basically. And so, John, you've been to this. You've heard this podcast quite a bit, and you've listened to other people's rants. It doesn't have to be a rant. It can just be about like a PS, like a public service announcement, whatever you want to talk about. You get one topic to talk about. So, John, without further ado, you have the floor.
Wow, I wasn't ready for the rant. I will say this, top of my head, I would say that is that I will support somebody that, I will say this is that Lin, I think a lot of people have a misconception of him and think of they hear a lot of bad things, and they hear that he's this and he's that. And I will say this, that out of all the people that all the baseball coaches and everybody I've met there in Taiwan and that I've been around, he's one of the best by far. I would trust him with my children to teach them how to play baseball and how to do it the right way. And I have respect for him. He has a mutual respect for me. We've always been on the same page together. I miss coaching with him, truthfully. I think that for some reason he gets a bad rap, and sometimes he can be brutally honest, but guess what? So am I. This is baseball, and this isn't a tickling contest, and so I think that baseball is a sport that you become, like, you play it when you're a child, but you really become a man the more and the longer that you play it, and you can learn life lessons. You can learn stuff through baseball that will make you a better person and make you a different person, and not only that, learning how to deal with adversity and trial and error. Baseball has so many avenues that just can, the longer that you play, the more that you get to learn, and you're always constantly learning, and I will say that the time that I've spent with him, is some of the best times I've had, sitting by his side, him and I, sitting in the war room, him and I would talk every single day. We would talk about pitching, and we would talk about what are we going to do? What kind of moves should we make, and whatever. We always had one-on-one time, almost on a daily basis, and it's not always cupcakes and rainbows either. There's some, I don't like that, you don't like that. Well, we'll agree to disagree then. And it's just professional that way. And that's okay. But I think that right there is something I've always wanted to say, about him, and especially after, what had happened. And I would and will coach with that guy again someday. I don't know when, where, how, but whenever that does come, I look forward to it, because I know it's going to be a good experience and have a like-minded person, to be able to be right there on the same page. And we both had each other's backs, and that is something I really, really admired about him, is that lack of backstabbing and very honest up front to you, right to your face. I really respect that. And I just texted him the other day, and he texted me and it's like, hey, Sean Morimondo's here, and yeah, he's like, I hope he does well, or something like that. It was Google Translate, so it doesn't translate that good, but when it did come through it, I know what that means when it comes to Lin. You know what I mean? Like, I know what he's saying without saying it, and I get it. And I miss talking to him like that, because I can't, because I don't have a translator. But and there's one other thing that I will elaborate on, and I'll say, and this is something that, man, I think about it all the time. And that team in 2022, I'm telling you, that pitching staff mixed with Pena. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, I think of that pitching staff, especially from that second half all the way to the end. Oh my goodness. I mean, what a highlight. Yeah. I mean, those guys were like the most professional, just monsters on the mound. I mean, they just went out there and just did their job. I mean, switching, like guys like Kevin going to a starter, getting double-digit wins, 2 years in a row. And like, just like the amount of relievers, and then Chinga, when Chinga goes in and gets into the closer role, like, and did it. Wow. I mean, I don't know if I've seen somebody pitch out of so much adversity, and so
Yeah.
many just clutch situations. Just like, oh my God. The last mound visit I took, I think he walked two guys or whatever, and he had one out in a tight game with the bases loaded. And my last mound visit that I took with him was like, I'm gonna tell you something right now, kid. I'm like, there is nobody on earth that can get out of this jam but you. I was like, throw that hard, throw that ball, go after him, give it everything you got. Dude, he gets a freaking double play again. Like, unbelievable, man. Like, oh my gosh. And I love seeing him being the last person on the mound. I have that picture, and I have that picture blown up, and I'm putting it on the canvas. And I'm also making something special for him that I'm going to send to him while I'm here.
Oh.
And it's like it's just a picture of him when he's like this, and oh man, as that last pitch that he threw and everything was just like, it was like the greatest ending that I had in a season. Plus my father had passed away. I was wearing a different number that season, because the coach from my college team, who meant the world to me, had passed away. And it was like everything was just like, I missed a month in spring training, to go home, because my father passed away, and it was just like there was a lot of stuff there. I had a lot of stuff like on me. I was wearing my rings. I wore a different number, and like after that, it was like it was worth it. And it was like I took all that off. I changed my number. I don't wear the rings anymore. Like it kind of like helped me like gain closure on stuff, and they did that. That pitching staff did that, by their grit, their toughness, their preparation, just everything. Like that whole staff, man, from Chiza to when Bolhao came up, and Bolhao was a starter when Daiyuan was coming, he was a starter. That like we did so much stuff that year, that was just awesome, and everybody did their job, and it was so great, and what lined up with our foreigners and everything. I mean, oh my gosh, it was just what an absolutely incredible season, and especially the end of the season, man. That ring is special to me, but that pitching staff, I have the video saved on my phone. I watch it at least twice a week still, and it still gives me the chills every single time.
Yeah.
Every single time when he strikes him out, it's just and and it's not like that. It's just that I kind of checked all the boxes off, and that was like the final one, meaning that we in 2019 we lost at home. In 2020 we lost Game 7 at home, but we were up 3-1. We had it, and we legitimately got out toughed. They out toughed us, and they were tougher, and they prevailed stronger. They believed in themselves a little bit better than we did, and just didn't give up, and just kept grinding, and that's how they beat us. And then the next year, I got to beat them at their place.
Yes.
And then the next year, I got to win at home, and I was like, that is like it. Like that is the special thing. And with that pitching staff and everything, like, man, and they had the best ERA that the league's seen, and for a reason, because they're freaking excellent, and I was just so proud of them, like, and they deserve all the credit. I'm just a guardrail on the side of the road so that you don't go off the cliff. They're the ones who are in the middle of the grind, and they're the ones out there performing. I've never taken credit for anything of any single player that has ever done. I may say, hey, I've been working on stuff, but man, he's got to go out there and do that job himself. I have nothing to do with that. And same goes here. Those guys, man, what an incredible performance. And I even told them at the end of the year, when the season was over, I went and I had a meeting with them, and I just showed them, like, this is your team ERA. Like, it's the lowest in the CPBL history of like when they've gone to this many games, and like, this is how good you guys are. Like, I want you guys to believe it, and we had meetings every game, and and everything. Like, it's just it all kind of like came to that point, where I could have left right then. I could have gotten fired after that night and been completely happy. That was a special time, and I love all those guys. I still do. They hold a close place to me, and I will never, I'll never forget that. and I hope that they don't.
Yeah.
I hope it was special to them too, because you know how it is. Sometimes that being in Taiwan, not too many guys have too many emotions on stuff like that. They don't really show it too much. They may believe it and they don't show it
Yes.
that much, but but I get that too. But I know deep down, I know that that season was special too, and everybody was a part. With all the moves, even if you were there for one day, you're still an integral part of that. Whether it be any, it doesn't matter. And but yeah, that's about my rant right there.
Well,
That's
that
something
was great, but yeah,
that's
now
something I've
now
wanted to say for a
now
long time.
yeah, now I think now I would think the Taiwan series, that year Taiwan series a little bit better, because as a Monkeys fan, that was cruel. Like my mom at the time was like showing off, like, oh, we're up 3-0. I'm like, all right, mom, like, all right, but no, like it felt like the brothers like beating the Lions in 2021. It felt like you got the Lions monkey off your back, right? Like with the way that the
Yeah.
2020 series went, and then 2022 is like you got the Lamigo monkey off your back, because the way that the 2017, 18, 19, or yeah, 2017, 2019 series
That
went.
was
And so,
that was payback for 2019, and then
yes,
legitimately, like I told you, I didn't say it here, but after the 2020 season, I hated the color orange for
yeah,
365 days. Like,
yes,
I legitimately hated it. Like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to do nothing about it. A lot of people don't know too is that the day after we lost at home on Game 7, I went to the stadium the next day because Geelong and Zhongqian were going to play catch because they were rehabbing their surgeries that they had. And when I got to the field, like, I just feel terrible, like we just lost or whatever. But when I got to the field, the thing that really hit and really stuck with me, and that I never wanted to happen again, is when I looked up into the stadium, I could still see that there was orange streamers still like dangling off. And I was like,
yeah.
I'm going to try and do every single possible thing I can to never let that happen again, and it didn't.
Yeah, and yeah, I thought the story kind of it went full circle, right? With the way that the brothers organization was between, again, 2016 to 2020, and then the way that the brothers have been dominating since 2021 to 2024, and the look like for a foreseeable future too. It really comes in like those two series. I felt like it came full circle for the brothers. As much as I hated to admit, that was the way that it looked from the outside. Thank you so much for coming on, John, and thank you for being an open book. And I really can't wait for the next couple of episodes and then by the time we finish the episode, to be honest, like by episode 4, the season's about to start. So it's a very nice lead up to the 2025 season. I really appreciate you reaching out, and I really appreciate you coming on the show.
And you know what? Maybe some people, if the people who do listen to it or whatever, get some questions. Ask us some questions. Go to the Twitter. Go to Twitter. Have some questions or whatever. I'd love to answer anything.
Yeah, and John's been commenting on CPL Stats posts too, so he's out there. Like you can find him now. I'm not sure if you have a profile picture yet, but rest assured that's a real account. Rest assured that's a real account. That's not some Elon Musk bot account, but it's real. You can questions.
It's me.
Yep.
JFoss90. It's right there.
Thank you again. Thank you so much, John, for coming on, and looking forward for more episodes in the future.
Of course. Thanks, Daniel. It's been awesome, man. I look forward to it.
All right. Thank you. See y'all in a couple of weeks.